Welcome to Leadership from the Heart. My name is Renee Funk, and oh my goodness, Elizabeth, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and I know we've been crazy, and everybody in the world is trying to get back to school and figure out the new normal, and I miss seeing you on a weekly basis, so I'm glad we're back on our schedule.
I miss seeing you so much.
How's Orlando? Good?
Orlando's good. We started school yesterday. Distance learning is going well for the Funk family. But I might say, after the couple days of distance learning, I think our guest, Nate Powell, can probably help me out with a little stress relief.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about our conversation today. I'm actually in Colorado, so I figured our company is virtual. I can work virtually. I have worked virtually for many, many years. My kids are virtual, so why not be in Colorado? So I'm enjoying the nice temperatures while Nate and Renee, you both are burning up in Texas and Florida. So you're right. I am so excited to introduce Nate Powell. I've known Nate for a number of years. Professionally, personally, he's a good friend of our families, and what they're doing is really, really cool. He's one of the owners at Treaty Oak Distillery in Austin, Texas, in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. It's one of the most popular ones out there right now, and what's great is they just have such a story and such a connection to the community, and I think you're really going to love what he has to share with us today. So, Nate, thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Nate.
100%. Thanks a whole lot for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So I'm a little biased. I mean, you're one of my favorites, and Treaty Oak is absolutely one of my favorites. And I know all the history, but share about yourself. Tell us about your journey, where you've come from, how that all happened with Treaty Oak, and just tell us whatever you'd like to share.
Sure. My wife and I moved to Austin, Texas in 2003, and we got out of Houston where we had met. Houston, I love Houston. It's a great place to visit, but the temperature there is even worse than it is here. And it's kind of a concrete city. So we kind of realized it wasn't conducive for our lifestyle. We wanted to go somewhere that we could start a family and work and play and have a good time. So Austin kind of was, obviously a lot of people circle Austin on the map these days. We were here before the toll roads were, and before they showed up. So we have a few ways to date ourselves that we enjoy. But we moved here, and then I went to work at actually Dell Computer for a little while, and just kind of realized that lifestyle, that corporate lifestyle, wasn't a good mesh for who I am and my personality. I like to be more creative and kind of deal with new things every day and problem solve. And there's a lot of gratification that comes from, working on various projects and kind of paving your own way. So I met Daniel Barnes at after I went to work at a small medical services company. And we met and we shared an office about the size of maybe a 10 by 10 office. It was tiny. And one day he leaned over to me and said, "Hey, my distilled spirits permit just got approved. So I'm going to go start this distillery thing. And we can actually start our own business doing this medical services. Same thing that we're doing here, but just do a better job and go start our own company. And if you like, we can kind of go do all it together and kind of office out of the distillery itself." I said, "I'm young. Jill's got a job. She can pay the bills." We had shockingly a mortgage of about $1,200 in Austin, Texas, and we said this is the time to do it. So he and I started up that medical company together in 2005. He launched the distillery in 2006. So just by osmosis, by being right there next to him, in a very tiny, our office size didn't grow when we made the move over to this place. It was still a really small place, no air conditioning. I think we had one window unit maybe to try to keep us cool. But we built the medical company as he was building the distillery. But he would often need to leave and go do a sales meeting with Twin Liquors or Total Wine or something like that. And I would stay back and watch the equipment, run the stills and help him out here and there with the business. And it got to a point where I thought he was making some pretty good spirits. The rum came out great. First product in Texas that was made with Texas ingredients, 100%. First craft product, grain to glass, produced all from fermentation all the way through distillation in Texas. So I thought he was doing some pretty cool stuff. And but I'm a gin guy and kind of a whiskey guy. At the time, though, it was primarily gin. So he was working on a gin, and our medical company became pretty successful. So he asked if I wanted to join him and be a partner with him in the distillery. And I said, well, let's see how this gin comes out. And so it took about 2 or 3 months after that conversation for Waterloo Number 9 gin to come out. And it blew me away. It just really knocked my socks off. I thought it was something that was so innovative, but yet true to the category of London dry gin. And how he figured out how to cross and kind of achieve both of those things, I thought was pretty unique. So I said, heck, let's do this. It's I'm at the time the medical business was in workers' comp industry, so I'm in workers' comp, but I'm in liquor. Both of them are recession proof, and COVID's testing that theory right now a little bit. But we sold the medical companies in 2014 to a big global examination company, and that allowed us to move from our tiny little warehouse in North Austin in the industrial area, Metric and 183 area, down and over to the hill country of Texas. And we needed to get out of Travis County, needed to get out of the city of Austin. So they weren't very hip to storing big quantities of alcohol in the city limits. So we started looking around Liberty Hill, even Bastrop. But once we got out to Dripping Springs area, we fell in love with this town, fell in love with the people. They wanted us here. So we decided to go ahead and buy a 28-acre ranch, Ghost Hill Ranch. And there's a lot of history to Ghost Hill Ranch that we can certainly touch on. But it was a beautiful property, big giant oak trees, and we knew that we could expand. We're outside of city limits. As long as we don't have too much concrete or stadium lighting, we can kind of do whatever we want. So we're able to increase our footprint, build a brand new distillery, bring in all the big equipment, build rick houses, and really start to go to work. And it's been a lot of that. It's been a whole lot of work. So we're pretty thrilled to wind up where we are today in 2020 with a continuous column still, a big 500-gallon pot still, a rick house that's now full of about 3,000 barrels, building another one. We've had some luck in some other marketplaces as well. And we're kind of really getting going in Texas, ramping up pretty fast and furious now, which has been a lot of fun. We've been around for 15 years, but kind of haven't had all the right resources and had everything come together just right to really make an impact here in Texas. And that's starting to happen now. So we're pretty proud of that. And I think it'll kind of catapult us to the top 2 or 3. It already has one of the top 2 or 3 distilleries in the state. And I think we're just taking off, just getting started.
You talk about the industries that are recession proof, right? What you guys have been doing is really great with the distillery. And it's funny because people are probably like, okay, leadership from the heart. We have all these different entrepreneurs and leaders. What does that have to do with a distillery, right? Why would those two come together? And what is so amazing with you guys is during COVID, and I want you to talk about this, you guys had to pivot. And it's not, a lot of distilleries and a lot of companies could have done the same thing. They chose not to, but y'all chose to go in a very different direction to meet the needs in adversity, right? And so talk about how you've pivoted over to providing hand sanitizer and how that looks and what the response has been for you guys during the pandemic.
We don't like to sit down and blame other people. We don't like to wait for things to happen. We have concern for our immediate family, our Treaty Oak family. We have an obligation to our shareholders. We have a desire to find ways to get by that otherwise wouldn't be there. And I think all events like COVID can give you plenty of reasons why not to, but just kind of like the ethos of our company, it's, well, why? And like, what can we do differently? And how can we innovate and be creative, which is how we ran our distillery for the last 5 years. It kind of translated over to this situation very nicely. Right out of the gate, it was, man, that was a roller coaster. I mean, every day at 8:00 in the morning, I would talk to our founder, Daniel, and he would say, all right, Nate, sit down, write you out a plan. What are you going to do with the property? Moving forward with this whole situation. At 2:00, we'll talk and we'll go over it. And about 2:00, we both watch the news, and I take my piece of paper that I worked on all day and crumble it up and throw it over my shoulder. And then we would start the next day with it was Groundhog Day. It was just over and over and over. And then that lasted about a week. And it was kind of funny. I actually realized there was a hand sanitizer shortage, and I went up and I brought home a big half gallon of high proof gin. and I started filling up little spray bottles. So that's what we were using as hand sanitizer. And I joked around. I said, we should sell this stuff. Then Daniel kind of looked at me kind of funny, and he said, huh, and that was kind of the very beginning of, within about a week after that, it was really catching on like fire. But we, of course, went with the correct formula, and FDA did remove a lot of the red tape and allow distilleries to produce hand sanitizer, and as long as you registered and hit the formula. So just like everything else, though, the supplies became in pretty short supply. Pumps, squeeze bottles, hydrogen peroxide. Where do you go buy 4,000 gallons of hydrogen peroxide in hospitals? Right. So there's a lot of networking that happened. All the industry itself all came together. We helped each other out. We had conference calls every day on how are we sourcing, how are you getting, who's got excess. I have a contract over here with Whole Foods. I need some, and we'll source it from over here, move it around. So the industry really came together, and we're very competitive, but at the same time, we all know each other. We talk frequently. In the same room, we're all friendly and happy. And of course, we go out and compete in the marketplace. But this is one of those times where the marketplace kind of got put on hold, and we all really came together and figured out a way to provide. The numbers are pretty staggering. 500,000 or 1 million gallons of hand sanitizer out to the marketplace, with a bunch of it being donated. We had about 50,000 gallons in the height of it all produced. About 10% of that was given away to first responders and some other organizations, people that are close to us in our community. And it was pickup trucks pulling up every day, one after another, and just cases of 1 gallon hand sanitizers being loaded in their trucks just every single day for several weeks. It helped our core distilling crew is able to shift and work on that instead of making whiskey and gin. To keep our systems up and running is very expensive. We have a giant steam generator in our cooling systems. You can't. It's like your house. If you just have to keep your house cold all the time, it's constantly running. And if you're not making whiskey, you got to turn that off because it just takes so much energy and capital to keep it running. So we had to do something. So sanitizer really kind of filled a gap there with our core crew. And with the restaurant and the hospitality side, it went through a whole evolution, several evolutions, and we're still evolving to this day. In fact, next week, we're taking another big shift in that. Initially, we went from a very, very busy destination tourism weekend spot. We would see maybe 3,000 or 4,000 people come out there on a weekend, and all of a sudden that just overnight went away. So it took us about 4 days to reinvent, and I had to furlough a lot of people, unfortunately. About half my kitchen staff, so I only had half a crew that was working on just weekends, and we went to being open 7 days a week and doing to-go food and curbside pickup, sanitizer, cocktail kits, bottles, and then our barbecue. So to say that those guys worked their butts off to keep us afloat for that 30, 45-day period is a massive understatement. It was terribly stressful, and they did a really good job. And the community needed a place to go to get stuff. They couldn't get toilet paper. They couldn't get, bleach spray. They couldn't get going to the grocery store at H-E-B. You had to wait in a line at 6 o'clock in the morning out here in Dripping Springs, and it took you 2 hours to go through the process. So at the same time, our food suppliers all their clients went away. All the restaurants closed. So they had excess inventory, and the grocery stores were getting ransacked. So we were a connecting point. We were able to turn our operation into a grocery store. Our restaurant was closed. The inside was shut down. And there was boxes of toilet paper, paper towels, packages of cheese, provolone cheddar. We had slice it, package it up in 1 pound, half-pound bags, and put it up on our website. So we turned into a grocery store to go barbecue, liquor, bottle sales, sanitizer company for a while, and it worked. We were able to keep our doors open, keep the lights on. Mainly broke even, made a little bit of money here and there, but super proud of that. Most places, couldn't say the same by any means. This first wave kind of went away and things kind of opened up again. So we got really excited, and kind of went back to majority on-site, consumption of food and drink. That went really well. And then now the second wave hit. So we've had to kind of shift back down and go back just down to just the weekends again. But we're also going to add back in that 6-day-a-week curbside and cocktail pickup service starting next week. Just because I think we're settling in what Elizabeth said, the new normal now. So we're going to settle in with what we know is going to kind of be this new lifestyle for at least 6 to 12 months. And so now we're going to kind of reinvent how we're going to do curbside with meals are already cooked. They just warm up at home. Also some meal kits where half the things are already prepared, chopped up, sliced up, maybe even cooked, but some things aren't quite ready, finished off. So you'll pick it up with some instructions on how to complete the meal at your house. Like a chicken fried brisket plate that we're going to launch. It's going to be amazing. So we'll give you the brisket already cooked and sliced, and the flour and the egg, of course, and you batter it up and pan fry it yourself at home with some mashed potatoes and whatnot. And it's just going to be pretty amazing. So we're taking on that next project starting next week, and I think we'll kind of settle there for the whole fall and kind of watch and wait and see how everything unfolds and see how school treats the environment that we're all living in today, and if there's spikes and dips and flows, and we'll just kind of go with it.
Nate, you're just bringing up so many important points we talk a lot about on this show, Elizabeth and I, that you have to operate in the current situation. And I love to see that Treaty Oak and your entire organization didn't wait. You just got into action and you started coming up with new ways that you could facilitate a business and also serve your community, which is so key. So Treaty Oak became such a great connector then for so many things within the community, which really helps so many people. Kudos to you guys for being agile in that way.
Thank you. We've always operated as such, because as a startup company, you're dealing with a lot of adversity, you're dealing with a lot of challenges. So it just becomes embedded in your day-to-day operation to move quickly and be agile, like you said. So when it happened, there wasn't even a conversation of what do we do. It was immediately just go to work. And
right.
I think that helps. Our longevity in the industry, being around for as long as we have, really helps. Unfortunately, a lot of other distilleries that didn't have good distribution, that didn't already have people that had tried their spirits before, they were kind of left a little bit stranded as the retailers were drawing down inventory. They weren't keeping things in stock like they used to. They were worried about their money. They didn't know how this long was going to last, and so they kept their inventory numbers down really, really low. So, distilleries did not see a purchase order for several months. Normally, you get a pretty good cadence, and you can budget and plan for it. But everybody saw a drought for about 2 or 3 months there on new product orders coming in, while they just ran through their inventory. And that's being corrected now, and we're kind of getting back on track. Thankfully, right as our sanitizer kind of went away, the PO started coming back in. So that worked well for us. But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of distilleries out there that didn't have that benefit of having already fans of the brand out in the marketplace ready to help and react and respond to them and help them like we were able to. So we feel very, very lucky. I hate the word luck, because a lot went into getting to this point, but we were very, very blessed and happy that we were able to ride this storm probably a lot better than most.
Can you share with us about your nonprofit organization? Oh, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I thought I was muted. Sorry, my other computer went down, so I'm being agile and I'm on my phone. One of the common themes we hear with all of our guests, though, just what you were saying, we're all competitors, right? But it's collaboration, not competition. And I love how even in your industry, you all came together to help each other out, which benefits the community. And you still have that healthy respect for each other in the marketplace. But when the time was needed, that wasn't even a question. So kudos to that. I love that you guys all came and helped each other out.
That was a special element. There's another silver lining in the whole process is we built a stronger bond with everybody as a result of that. And that's apparent in how we kind of handle each other and talk to each other now. It's different than it's ever been before. So absolutely, I was again kind of the same thing. There was zero hesitation there too. I can't think of one distillery that didn't participate or come to the conversation ready to rock and ready to do whatever they needed to do to help everybody out. So it kind of became like a competition. Well, how much have you given away? How much have you produced? It's just like everything else we do. It's who's going to win this? Who's going to win this market share and get after it? And get mentioned in this article over here, this article over there, and so there's a little bit of self-servingness going on to kind of get out in the spotlight with it. But all the intentions, of course, were good and for the right reasons.
I'd love for you to share with us information about the nonprofit organization you have, One Tree Planted.
Yeah. So sustainability as a whole is just really important to us. And that's been the case forever, but now we've actually been able to do things that really impact the environment with our facility on site and also out in the marketplace too. So one tree planted, we're treaty oak. You know, the name of treaty oak comes from the live oak tree that's downtown in Austin, right across from Whole Foods, a couple of streets, a couple of blocks over, which was part of the original Council of Oak Trees in what was Waterloo before it became Austin, Texas. And that's where Stephen F. Austin signed the paperwork to, you know, colonize Austin. And there was a bunch of oak trees there called the Council of Oaks, but now just that one tree, the treaty oak, is left. And in the 80s, it was poisoned. Some story about a guy's, you know, fiance said no or rejected him, and he thought it was going to help bring her love back or something like that. But Ross Perot actually gave a blank check to the city of Austin and said, whatever you have to do, fix this tree. So I think $250,000 or so later, and a team of arborists were successful. And in the 90s, early 90s, they started producing acorns again. One of those acorns actually has been grown into about a 5 or 6 foot live oak tree. So it in the family of that treaty oak tree, and is planted on our property now. You can walk by and see the plaque and everything. We're pretty proud of that. So we're big on trees, and we're big on the fact that we are cutting down trees for our barrels to age our whiskey in. So how do we offset that? So we looked at every barrel that we dump. Whenever we make a PO, fill a PO for whiskey or bourbon, we go pull barrels from our rick house. It may be 3, it may be 10, it could be even more than that. So every time we dump one barrel, we send the funds to have a tree planted with that organization, so we can know in good conscience that we're replacing what we're depleting at the same time.
That's so incredible that you're focused in the way of that sustainability, and it's important. I did not know that the history around the treaty oak. Elizabeth Riley, you hadn't shared that with me before.
There's a lot about Austin you need to know, but Nate, am I wrong? It's about 500-year-old, correct? I mean, it's a huge.
You can't.
It's a huge tree.
It is. It's very big, and I haven't. I've been told that it's really hard to gauge the age of live oak trees because they grow in spurts. So you really have to actually cut a branch off and really look at it to determine age. But I've heard 300 to 400 years on that tree, maybe even more. So no, you're absolutely right about that. And then, you know, to go back on the sustainability conversation too, it doesn't stop there, and that's a really neat program that we're working with. But the grains that we source for our bourbon, our Ghost Hill grain or glass bourbon, it's all the corn and the wheat are all Texas grown grain, and it's heirloom grain. So we work with James Brown with Barton Springs Mill to go source grain that's non-GMO, organically farmed. The wheat comes from south of Fort Worth, and the corn comes from the Panhandle. The wheat seed traces back to 1906. A Scandinavian family migrated over and brought that seed with them and started growing this winter wheat here in Texas. It may be earlier than that, but we have documentation that goes back to 1906. So we're supporting, you know, farmers that are doing what we consider the right way, you know, sustainable agriculture, and that's 89% of what goes into our Ghost Hill bottle. So we have a garden on site that we, of course, use for our restaurant for our cocktail program. We take all of our scraps for our compost bin. We have a farmer that comes by and picks up our spent grain, a cattle farmer, and takes it back to his farm, dries it, and then feeds it to his cows, which we're then going to take those cows and bring them back and use them for our barbecue program. So we have a Ghost Hill brisket where the cows ate nothing but you know, our waste from our distillation process. So there's several little kind of tenets involved with how we try to look at what can we do to reduce our footprint and reuse and recycle and be sustainable across the board.
So Nate, I didn't even know all of it. Even though I know you, even if I didn't know you, I should say, I mean, Treaty Oak is one of my favorite places. Renee, I take all my clients there that are moving to Texas because I want them to have the Texas experience, and the food and the drinks and the environment, and just it's a family place, right? There's so much land and the kids run around. And I mean, your Easter brunch, you have brunches and great, well, I don't know right now, but you have great events at the land, at the property. One of my favorite is Easter. About a year or so ago, we came out there, and they had a helicopter that came out and dropped all the candy all over the property, and all the kids would go and run. So it's really, they're always doing things that are really fun and unique, and it just draws people out to the hill country. So I love seeing what you're doing with sustainability, and you can continue that moving forward. But yeah, the food and everything is amazing, and I'm not just saying that because biased.
No, we like to be innovative, and that kind of screams that we're serious about that. When you talk about a helicopter dropping candy off above down to a field full of kids, I'm not sure anyone's ever done that before, and we miss that tremendously. Those events out there, it's every bit as much about seeing our friends and our family that come out there and spend time with us as it is about trying to further the brand in the marketplace. It's those events and those days, about a half a dozen or so a year that we do. People that are in marketing, sales, or accountants, they all come to the property that day and bring their families, and it's really kind of funny how a lot of people get off work at 4 o'clock on a Friday, and they'll be itching to get out of there. And the bell rings, and like Fred Flintstone, they're just on the way home, running as fast as they can. And at Treaty Oak, everybody kind of gets excited and hangs out. It's 5-6 o'clock on a Friday, and all of a sudden people are showing up, and my family comes out and we have dinner, and you have no desire to leave. You want to stick around and kind of enjoy the property and start to socialize and catch up with all your friends. So it is a pretty special place that way.
Where do you see the business going in the next 3, 5, 10 years? Look out into the horizon, Nate.
That's a great question. So, and there may be a different answer for that 3, 5, 10 years too. In the short term, we're hyper focused on Texas. The next couple of years will be spent really expanding our footprint and our fan base here in the state. There's 20 million people in Texas, something like that. And there's DFW as the population of Kentucky. Houston's the population of Tennessee. So we looked to where can we go to expand out. We kind of thought, well, why would we do that? We've got so many people here in Texas that don't know our story yet. So the next several years would be spent really dialing into our Texas market share. 5 years and beyond. Our primary business is whiskey. We want to really expand what we're doing with our bourbons and our whiskeys. So the gin project is, conceptually is kind of already locked in place. There's a few unique expressions that we're going to work on in estate gin, which is going to involve almost exclusively botanicals grown from our garden. My wife's our gardener out there, and she's already probably put back 7 or 8 different botanicals with our head gin R&D head, which is Courtney. And so they're working together to create a really badass gin. But that's very limited in what we're going to do, but whiskeys and bourbons are kind of where we want to be. So 3, 4, 5 years from now, that's when all of the work we're doing now will be ready and aged properly and ready to go. So I think probably years 4 and 5 will be a big step forward for our bourbon program. And then 10 years down the road, that's I can't think that far out. Who knows? Who knows if we'll have another Treaty Oak in Oregon, or if we'll have one in Detroit or something like that kind of replicates what we do here and start to kind of spread the love that way, where we give people. Surprisingly to me, it doesn't exist very often where you build a really big, huge place and serve, really good Texas style barbecue and good drink. It seems real simple and basic to us at this point. That's not to diminish how much work goes into making it seem smooth and easy. It's kind of that swan thing, right? The swan's in the water gliding, but underneath the legs are paddling like crazy. That's certainly how it is out there. But why hasn't that been more of a thing? I go to Dallas and it just doesn't exist. You go to Houston, it doesn't exist. So maybe that's what we get into once our feet are underneath us and the brand's in a good spot, and the whiskey's in a good spot. Maybe we look to expand our concept out beyond just the Dripping Springs area.
Well, I love how you. I think I have a delay on my end, but I love how you continue to lead in the industry and continue to lead in innovation. And again, leading with creating a solution for a need in a pandemic. I mean, the fact that y'all were able to change it so quickly and respond so quickly and profoundly is just a really big testimony to where you'll come from, who's leading, who's a part of it, and where y'all are going. Are you going to continue to do that? I mean, as long as there's a need, or where is that element of the business right now?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a very curious question because that's kind of also trying to predict where this is going to go in the next 6, 12, 18 months. Are we going to be kind of back to normal in 6 months, 12 months? It's kind of hard to say. It seems like things are somewhat normalizing now with the sanitizer marketplace. You're having some bad product recalls and things like that. But the grocery stores are now packed, so I don't know that we can contribute a whole lot more. We have a few contracts with some chains that will live out, but then it kind of looks back onto what's the next thing that we can do. I kind of look to that as providing some type of escape from all of this stress and chaos that people are dealing with. I suspect the fall is going to be very stressful for people. I think school is probably going to not last in person for the whole year. It may not even go there at all to begin with. So you have a lot of, and we've been homeschooling for the last 4 years, so we know what people are about to experience, and they're going to be stressed. So they're going to want to get out and go do stuff, and there's going to be very limited. ACL's canceled. There's a lot of things that are canceled. So what are they going to go do? And being able to provide a space for them to, what Elizabeth said, bring the kids, let them run around, be safe about it, I think is going to be really important for people to be able to blow off some steam that way. And live music is probably something that also came to mind. It's gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. We usually turn that off at Treaty Oak from July 4th to Labor Day because it's so hot, and our stage kind of faces west, so it's really not kind to put a musician up there and let them just sweat it out like that. But we're gonna get back to that pretty soon. We're only a couple weeks away from Labor Day, shockingly, so we'll start to do some live music at our place. But we're also working on. It's probably, I was worried it'd be too soon to mention this, but I think it's not. I think we're going to move forward with it. I feel pretty confident. So it's a drive-in plus dance concept, and it's really big in Europe right now. And it's been done here to an extent also, but we have a great, probably 5 or 6 acre part of our property that could lend itself well to this, where you have 100 cars, and each car can hold 2 to 6 people, but you have your car spot. You have a spot right next to your car for your blanket, your chairs, and then an emergency drive-through lane if someone has to get out of there in a hurry, blocked off. And we'll have 7 or 8 rows of maybe 10, 12 cars in a row, and have a stage built and do a series, 3 different concerts, an opener and a big a main event, getting some pretty decent talent, and kind of running it to where you show up at 4 o'clock. You park your car, you get assigned a number, and we'll run food and drinks out to you, and you get to see live music from your car, and experience what Austin's been so good to provide people for such a long time that they're not getting right now. So I think that's kind of what we'll focus on as far as how we can help people out with COVID, is give them a reason to smile and spend time with friends, and kind of take their mind off of everything for a little while, and because that seems to be very difficult to do these days.
Okay, we're coming.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're coming. The funks are coming.
I was
It might be a long drive.
Lately, but that'll do it. That'll do it. Sign me up.
I would love to know, Nate, what is your favorite beverage of choice?
That's a wow. I'm one of those people that when those questions are posed on Facebook or social media, that I always argue why you're making me make this decision. It seems very, I don't like these games.
Is this like saying which is your favorite child? You can't do that, right?
Right. Well, it depends. Okay, I'll answer it the same way. It depends on the day and the circumstance and what happened recently. And I overanalyze a lot of things in life too. So, I like bourbon, I like whiskey, and I like wine, and I still love a good gin cocktail. So if I'm going to make a cocktail and I want to spend some time, if I'm feeling, like I don't want to just pull something out and do an easy pour, I grab a bottle of number 9 and I make a cocktail. It's just so easy to do. It's so fun, and it can lighten things up a little bit. If I'm at the end of a long work day and everybody's asleep, and I just want to relax for an hour and geek out on something on YouTube or something like that, I'll pour whiskey on the rocks. That just kind of really speaks to that moment, and I can really take the time to analyze what I'm drinking, whether it's Ghost Hill, the current blend that we just released, or a different bourbon I want to try. There's no distractions. I can actually sit there and kind of literally just drink the drink and sip on it and see where it takes me in the flavor profile. And then wine. Wine's the everyday go-to. The quick, easy out of the refrigerator. I don't discriminate between red and white. I'm not a snob by any means. I really enjoy some great bottles and have some great bottles in my cellar, but I'm not that much of a snob. So I'll pour white wine over ice in Topo Chico in this heat Texas summer, and I won't apologize for it. So it just depends on the setting and where I'm at and how much time I've got and what the situation calls for.
Love it.
That's cool. I love that answer.
And
very good.
Right now, my son. I'm just kidding.
Wait, so Nate, when we had hopped on earlier, you were talking about one of the new products that you had. Do you want to share?
Absolutely. So one thing we've been kind of coming out of COVID that we're really excited about, we had a chance to really focus on, was several new products, and we're just launched our ready to drink old-fashioned cocktail. So old-fashioned is probably the most popular bourbon drink right now, and it's super easy to make, but it's also super easy to mess up at the same time. And you always want to have the bitters at home or the cherry flavor at home. And then some people just are even adverse to making simple syrup at home. So this is a pull out of the fridge, pour over ice, you're done, ready to rock. It worked on it for about 9 months. The recipe is really, really, really good. It's not quite as sweet as a normal old fashioned. It's a little bit dialed down, which I personally was very thankful for. But the flavors are all there. The orange, the bitters, the components are all there, built really, really well. So it's in a 375 bottle, or 750s are coming out pretty soon. But right now the 375s are out, and it's only like $15 a bottle. In some places it's like $13, $14 a bottle, and it makes about 3 or 4 old fashions. So it's screaming good deal, and we're already seeing good traction. I expect really good things out of that. The next thing that we're really excited about following that is our day drinker bourbon. So we like to kind of zig when people are zagging.
I wouldn't know anything about that. Hold on. This is where I have to go.
kind of speaks to what's going on right now, right? It's I see neighbors I didn't even know drank. They're out walking around at 2 o'clock, walking there with their dogs with a big beer. So the day drinker, right now bourbon world is so hot with cask strength and barrel strength and just overproofed and stuff like that, and that's great. It's kind of like IPAs with beer when they first came out. Everybody was, how big can your IPA be? And frankly, I got turned off by all of that really quickly. I'm not a big beer guy. And same thing with whiskey. I enjoy the cask strength stuff, but honestly, I gotta water it down or let the ice melt for a little while before I even get into it. So the day drinker is our Ghost Hill juice, the same mash bill, same juice. It's 100% juice from our continuous column still, which is a very awesome piece of technology. It really makes an amazing bourbon. We've only had it installed for about 1.5 years. So our inventory for our everyday Ghost Hill is getting close to being exclusively column still juice, but it's not quite there yet. So day drinker though it's only aged for 1 year. So a lot of people say bourbon only aged for 1 year. I'm not drinking that. But you will. It's really, really tasty. The flavor profile is amazing. Things age a little faster here in Texas than they do in Kentucky and Bourbon County out there. So it's already got the oaky flavor coming through. It's a little bit young, absolutely. But if I give it to somebody in a blind tasting and ask them to tell me how old it was, they wouldn't guess, just 12 months on the barrel. But it's a fully grain to glass certified, made in Texas whiskey that's priced on the shelf to be around $25, $26. Right now, everything that's grain to glass, Texas made, bourbon is, in that $35, $45, $55 range. So we're going to come in and really have a product that screams, try me, sample me, let's see what this is always about. Very approachable for a lot of people to combat that Jack Daniels kind of market space. And it's fabulous. I had a big bourbon society. Well, I won't name them, the group itself, but there's several bourbon societies all around Texas geographically. And 13 guys came down to pick out a barrel, and of course it had to be cask strength. And they're all, not going to admit to anything other than I love drinking cask strength bourbon neat. So I grabbed Day Drinker and set it down and told them what it was. They balked, of course. I knew they would. But then I kind of walked away for 20 minutes and came back, and they were all fighting for the bottle and it was almost gone. And they were saying how delicious it was, and they can't wait for it to come out. So it's 80 proof, easy drinking. You literally, I'm not a neat guy. I usually like to cool my drinks down. But you can pour this in a shot glass and just right down the hatch and not make a face at all. It doesn't give you that ink, that whiskey burn, which I love in normal everyday whiskey experience. But this is something that just goes down ridiculously smooth, and it's tasty. So we're very excited about that product too.
Well, I love everything that you guys are working on and just everything that you've done and are going to be doing. And I can't wait to get back out there and get the funks out there too. So I think you might have just put them over the edge, and that was a winning combination that I needed to get them out for a visit.
For sure. And next time you come out there, Elizabeth and Renee, if you can come too, we're in about a week or so launching our single barrel direct to consumer, personal single barrel selection. So we'll have 8 barrels at Ghost Hill. They're already been moved to the Rick House, and individuals can schedule a time on Saturdays from once a month to start, and we'll expand from there, where they can come down only 10 at a time to, of course, stay within the guidelines, 10 to a session, but you'll be able to sample up to 5 of those different single barrels with tasting notes on each one. And whichever one you like the best, you'll be able to bottle it right out of the barrel with a whiskey thief into a bottle, unfiltered, cork it, wax dip it, and take it home with you. So it's your true, unique single barrel selection for the individual consumer. Usually you have to, a big chain will buy a single barrel and put it in the store, and you don't participate in that process at all. Most people don't get a chance to ever participate in a single barrel selection. And it is by far the coolest thing that you can do in a whiskey distillery is go sit down and sample unique individual barrels, because they all taste different. There is a natural product, and it imparts a different flavor each and every barrel. So it's really fun to do that. And it's my favorite days in the office to get to do that. So we're going to bring that experience and that pleasure, for lack of a better way, to our consumers. Let them come in and enjoy that process with us and walk away with their own single barrel. So I'll plug that before we wrap up.
Love it.
I love it. We have one more question. It's a big one, right, Elizabeth?
It is. Maybe the most important.
I'm going to let you pose it. Come on.
Okay, so Nate, again, having you on is a little bit different than the different industries that we have.
Oh, there she is. See, it's a big question. We want you to have a cliffhanger, Nate.
Did we all lose each other? What does leadership from the heart mean to you?
So I want to make sure that I'm just understanding the question correct. Also, just what is how do I interpret that, and how does that really, how does it speak to me? If that's the question. So
yeah, because you're doing something really cool in an industry that you wouldn't typically think would come to the aid of the community like y'all did. Wouldn't lead the charge in a way that y'all did. So to us, that's leadership, and leadership comes in every different shape, form, and fashion. What is that? What is leadership from the heart to you?
So I did understand that correctly. Then I am excited about this question too. So it means 2 things. What you just described, not analyzing or thinking too hard about what you need to do to respond, just doing it. And not having anybody or any part of our immediate team or the managers ask what's in this for us, or what how are we going to capitalize on this? More of what's the right decision, what's the right thing to do, and how can we help? And like I described before, the instantaneous business plan, it happened in so fast and so quickly that there was never a second guess or never a question on what we can do or what we should be doing. It just started to happen. It was instant. So I think leadership from the heart comes through when you're in a time of crisis or in a time of need, or others are in a time of crisis or in a time of need. Kind of like same thing when Wimberley had his big flood. We threw everybody in pickup trucks and we drove right down to Wimberley, and we spent 2 days, helping tear down buildings and clear off the streets and move trees. And that wasn't hey, what should we do? Well, maybe we should, what day do you want to go? Let me check my calendar. It was, we are at the distillery, we stopped, we left the distillery immediately, and zoomed on down there, and stayed as late as we could. So that's leadership from the heart. It's letting your heart dictate what you're doing, not your mind or your ROI or your, the logical part of your personality come through. It's what's the right thing to do come through and override overall all those other decisions that might be a roadblock or cause friction. I also think that leadership from the heart applies to your management style, not necessarily what we're talking about with COVID or times of crisis. How do you go make a positive change, but how do you make every day in normal circumstances an environment that people can really get behind? And if you do that correctly, that's the precursor. If you do that correctly and everybody on your team sees that and knows that you're genuine and you create that family environment, like I was talking about on Friday at 5 o'clock, everybody comes together instead of vacating to go home. That makes the time come when the time comes that it's go time. There is a crisis, there is something to react to. Hey, I've got to have you guys work twice as many hours with half the crew. If you put in all the work on the front end of that and made that happen genuinely, then when that time comes, everybody responds and they're happy to take it for the team and really put up the effort to get it done. So those are kind of directly connected in my mind, but both kind of scream to me, lead from the heart, not from an office somewhere where you're not talking to anybody all day long except for to yell at them here and there on what to do and make sure all the numbers look good and systems are flowing properly. It's got to be more of a personal effort and connection with your staff and everybody down the line, your customers, your community. There's got to be a connection there.
What a perfect answer. And again, I know you, and I know that it's so you. That's your style, and I just love that you just shared that with us. So thank you.
Right on, for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you had a goal to bring smiles to the faces of the community. I can see that you do that. You certainly made us smile today and sharing some of your journey. We wish you continued success. And I promise you, when the Funk family comes to Austin, Treaty Oak will be our A1A #1 destination.
Bring the funk. I love it.
That's
awesome.
Right.
And Nate, to you and Daniel and the rest of the team, congratulations on the continued success. I mean, there's so many companies and industries and businesses that are really hurting. And we really love to celebrate the ones that are still doing well and thriving. So congratulations to all of you.
For sure, and I should have clarified. A lot of those comments made about leadership from the heart. I was in my mind. I was thinking about Daniel, our founder, and his reaction to all of this and his leadership skills is really what I was talking about there. He sets the tone and set the culture. So I don't want to let this wrap up without making sure that was very, very crystal clear that he's been a tremendous asset throughout these dark, difficult times for everybody. But yeah, looking forward to coming out stronger on the back end and seeing you guys soon.
Nate,
thanks for joining us.
Tell Jill hello, and we'll see you soon.